We are now joined live by British journalist and international affairs commentator Tom Gross. Good evening to you, Tom, and thank you for being here.
Good evening.
So let's dig more into this week. UK, France, Canada threatening to take concrete action against Israel. Also yesterday, the UK already suspended a trade deal talks. How serious is this and how far could it go?
Well, it is serious, but it's also not. There's a lot of noise coming out of those EU countries that want to threaten economic relations with Israel. So one thing, for example, is you just said that 17 EU countries wanted to review relations. I have been told by somebody present at the EU foreign ministers meeting yesterday that that's not the case. And in fact, 11 countries wanted to, and 16 did not. You know, quite important countries like Greece, Germany, Czech Republic, Italy, Cyprus, and so on are against any suspension with Israel. The other thing I would like to say is that there's a lot of noise coming out of these countries, partly to placate, you know, the left or Muslim votes and so on. But the reality is that trade continues. I mean, the United Kingdom that yesterday said it may delay a free trade agreement with Israel, the figures show that it's actually increased arms and other exports to Israel in the last 3 months. The Labour government has increased them compared to the Conservative government a year earlier. Another little point I'd just like to mention is that there's a disconnect between the kind of political elites making noise and the general publics. We see this, for example, in the Eurovision popular vote the other day. So Spain's prime minister calls for Israel to be kicked out of Eurovision, but the Spanish public gave the maximum 12 points to the Israeli singer, Yuval Raphael. And that was the same in Britain. She got the maximum in all the countries where the politicians and the elites and the left-wing media are against Israel. The popular vote went to Israel, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Britain, and so on.
Well, it's definitely, comforting when, how the world has reacted since, October 7th to know that, there are people that can appreciate even, the art and the talent coming from Israel and able to differentiate between, politics and, the public at large.
I don't think it is just differentiation. A lot of people are voting for political reasons, and they are fed up with the center of their cities being disrupted by rowdy pro-Palestinian demonstrators every weekend. And this is the silent majority saying, we are not with you. We are going to vote for Israel precisely because we do not want the center of our cities being taken over by people shouting extremist rhetoric, Muslim or left-wingers. I don't think it's just appreciating Israeli singing talents.
Right. Also, there was a Washington Post report saying the U.S. is also considering decreasing practical support to Israel. How likely is that to happen?
Well, look, certainly no one wants to see on television screens horrific pictures from Gaza, and we also don't want, people to suffer. On the other hand, I believe it's still the policy of the Trump administration and deep down the policy of most European governments for Hamas to be defeated. So they may pay lip service to a ceasefire, but just like in the Arab world, very, very few governments really want a situation where Hamas has a de facto victory, which is what will happen if there's a end of conflict now, presumably, unless they can get some kind of disarmament agreement from Hamas. So we hear lots of reports, but I take them with a grain of salt. The media often are not very accurate, or they're being briefed by individual officials at the State Department or foreign ministries who are a little bit hostile to Israel, but they don't necessarily reflect actual government policy.
All right. Thank you very much, political commentator Tom Gross. Always appreciated.
Thank you, Emily.